Welcome to The Bottom Line, where we examine trending and important news. Despite being fingered in the plot to rig the 2020 general and regional elections by witnesses who testified earlier, former Commissioner of Police Leslie James attempted to distance himself during his testimony before the COI, which has been deemed by many as a glaring display of incompetence. James was Guyana's police commissioner at the time of the March 2, 2020 elections and the 5 months that followed, when the then David Granger government colluded with key elections officials to derail the elections process and keep Granger in power. On the 5th of March in particular, James said that there was some mayhem in the building based on news reports he was viewing. He also said that based on an engagement with the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, Justice retired Claudette Singh, he asked police officers to secure the place. He denied giving any order to officers of the Guyana Police Force's Tactical Service Unit to remove party agents or a GCOM commissioner from the building.
You were seeing a live relay of what you describe as mayhem.
Yes, sir.
But in relation to the TSU ranks who were directing people out of the building, you were seeing post-event footage.
From what I saw, it was a post-event.
Oh, how come there was a shift in transmission?
I am unaware of that. I'm unaware.
Okay. Now, there was a clear violation of your instructions.
Clearly, yes, sir.
And you had communicated
by Mr. Thomas.
by Mr. Nurse,
Mr.
by
Nurse.
David and Ali. You are aware that David and Ali were the officers who went with the TSU ranks to the Ashman's building.
I wouldn't use the word or phrase violation, because when those ranks may have gotten on the ground.
One moment. Why is the word violation not appropriate to the circumstance? You give clear instructions. Please send TSU ranks to secure the building. You then see the ranks ordering people out of the building, which was not in keeping with your instructions. Clearly your instructions were violated, don't you agree? Yes or no?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. What did you do? Recognizing that your instructions were violated at whatever point in time.
I didn't do nothing.
Okay.
There was no need for me to do anything at that point.
There's no need for
No,
you.
sir.
Commissioner of Police, your instructions are violated and there is no need for you to do anything. Thank you. You don't need to say anything.
Very well.
Thank you very much.
The former Commissioner of Police also shared that he took it upon himself to call the GCOM chair, who related that she felt scared and alone. He was questioned by members of the COI tasked with looking into the events of that period about the actions he took to ensure the safety of the head of the elections body.
Mr. James,
Yes, sir.
you took the initiative to call the chairperson.
Yes, sir. Based on the
Justice.
footage. Based on the footage that I saw.
Yes, so you were seeing footage and you decided, look, let me speak with the chairperson.
Yes, sir.
The chairperson says to you, I am afraid, Commissioner, and I am alone. Two important things. I am afraid and I am alone.
Yes.
You were seeing video footage. You are a trained policeman,
That's true, sir.
a senior official of GCOM who tells me, the head of the police force, I am afraid, I am alone. You didn't make any inquiry about her security for that moment?
No, I don't think I inquired from her as to her security. Because it was my expectation that her security detail
Actually, there was nobody to stand you down.
or to be there.
Mr. James, sorry.
You said, Mr. James, that security special branch had, and I call him commander or senior officer.
Yes, there is a head of
So having heard from the chairperson that she was alone and she was afraid, you did not think it necessary to call that officer to find out what is happening?
I didn't think it was necessary for me to do that.
But why do you keep saying you didn't think it was necessary? Why do you say you didn't think it was necessary?
Because it wasn't necessary.
But why wasn't it necessary? Here was the chair of GCOM telling you, I am afraid, I am alone. And you are saying to this commission today, it was not necessary to inquire about her security.
Two things,
Yes.
as I said. It is my understanding and expectation that the chair security detail must have been present, whether close by or within the precincts of that location. That is one. Two, the head of that department, there was no need for me to contact them because they were ranks on the ground there. There was a commander, there was expected to be a commander.
James was also asked whether or not he knew the reason why the disorder or mayhem, as he put it, was taking place.
Aware that there was, as you described it, your impression was there was crisis at Ashton's building.
Well, the security crisis, yes, sir.
Do you know what was the reason for this circumstance arising?
No, I do not know.
Now, do you know?
No, I can see. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you understand?
There was some issue pertaining to, I just wanted to clear it. There was some issue pertaining to,
Don't seem to be sure, Mr. James.
no,
Well, if you're not sure, tell us.
No,
I
sir.
don't understand.
I want to give a response that is factual. So I'm just trying to recollect. You've asked me a question. I'm
Sure,
just
take your time. Take your time.
It has to do, or it had to do with the issue of, I think, the person in charge of Region 4 attempting to do something with regard to a disclosure or something in that regard. But it was some apparent action or conduct of a GCOM official which was not necessarily supportive of the person who, if I can summarize it as such.
Yes. Did it ever cross your mind, or was it ever a thought, that given this crisis situation, the commander could have been very actively involved in controlling this circumstance, and that's the reason why you couldn't contact him? Was that a thought? That only requires a yes or no
No,
answer.
it wasn't a thought.
It was
because
not.
I
It
was
was not
advised
a thought,
at-
Mr.
otherwise.
James.
No, it wasn't a thought. I
Thank
was
you, sir.
advised otherwise.
Thank you.
Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodriguez, while on her weekly TV program, Making the Case, revealed that Georgetown Mayor O'Brien Ryan was allocated a house lot through the government-subsidized housing program, despite being an owner of 2 properties.
They did for the East Coast people, the Indian area, so should do it here.
Okay, that's what we try to tell them all the time.
And only recently, Mr. Rodriguez went in East Coast, in Pigeon Island where I have a property, and distribute title to the squatters and pay some,
but the claim is not
post it up on the Facebook. Why the same can happen here?
And how much years it is not squatted?
And those are Indian peoples.
And how much years it is
It's
squatted?
Africa.
In the clip there, which piqued my interest, that he owns a property at Pigeon Island. Now, when I heard him say that, and you will understand why I say, he's just setting himself up. Because when I heard him say that, I was surprised, because I know of one property that the mayor received through the ministry's housing program. So when I heard him say he has a property at Pigeon Island, obviously I wanted to investigate to find out, well, what exactly is going on here.
The minister said a check showed that the mayor was allocated a house lot during the 5-month period when the APNU AFC was attempting to remain in office through fraud. This period, she said, was also being used by officials of the coalition to enrich themselves and grab whatever assets of the state they could have stolen.
So checks revealed that he acquired a property in Pigeon Island. Indeed, like he said, very publicly, by his own admission, he acquired property there in 2015. And then later on, he acquired a property in Bess on the west coast of Demerara in 2019. And then, guess what? In 2020, on the 11th of May, in April of 2020, he was allocated a land under the APNU AFC coalition when they were trying to rig the elections. In the middle of rigging the elections, they were busy helping themselves, and they gave Ubraj Narain property in Prospect, even though he was already the owner of at least 2 properties. During the period, so the no confidence motion had been passed, they were already in office illegally from 2018, December of 2018. Now this is April of 2020. He's in the ministry paying for land in April of 2020. Elections were gone since March, and he's there receiving land in 2020, knowingly defrauding the system.
One of the clear requirements in order for one to become a beneficiary of the government's housing program is that you, your spouse, or your common law partner must not be an owner of land or property, whether acquired through private or public means. Beneficiaries are made to sign a document that spells this out and affirms that they are in compliance. Mayor Ubraj signed to this effect despite knowing he was in violation.
Ubraj Narain knowingly read this and signed this document, knowing that he already owned at least 2 properties prior to the allocation of this land from the Ministry of Housing under the APNU AFC coalition when they were in office illegally. At the height of rigging elections, they're giving land to Ubraj Narain, they gave land to Ganesh Mai Paul, and they gave land to many others during the 5-month period. Up to the 3rd of August. Imagine President Ali was sworn in on the 2nd of August, and the Monday morning, on the 3rd of August, they're busy scrambling to see what else they can get to help themselves before they exited office, before they were kicked out of government.
When you travel along the eastbound corridor, you will see massive infrastructure work being undertaken. But equally important when opening new areas for housing is accessibility. This necessitates the government building infrastructure for new road networks.
As part of the expansion and growth, necessitates us building a 4-lane road. Mm-hmm. So you have in the first phase, we've completed from Mandela to Eccles, and that's being in use all of the time, and that is commissioned. And then you have a new route that was developed, and that is continuing from this very existing route at Eccles that continues all the way to Diamond. Already, we're finalizing the alignment that will now move you from Diamond to coming out somewhere by Craig in the first instance, and then of course continuing along various parts of the East Bank all the way to London Kingdom. And so there's a contract already awarded, and that is from the Eccles to Diamond, Great Diamond. We're talking about investments on the East Bank corridor there for about $13 billion.
The area Plantation Block X portion of Plantation Herstelling, commonly called Caneview, has provided some hiccups to the alignment of the 4-lane highway. 35 houses or structures were identified as falling directly in the path of the alignment of the 4-lane road. The area in question is a government reserve and was never apportioned to anyone. Moreover, according to the minister, the land was never regularized.
All the persons who occupy that space were there illegally. And so I want to, first of all, we must establish all the persons who are along that alignment are there occupying illegally. Nevertheless, as a government, as a caring government, and how we operate as a ministry too, is to engage and to engage so that we can have the best possible outcome.
On the 2nd of March 2021, Minister Crowell, along with the CEO of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, engaged the Mocha Caneview squatters.
We indicated to those persons that you will have to be relocated. You are falling along the alignment of the 4-lane. We took the maps, we showed them the alignment, we explained to them that we, as an offer, we're providing 2 areas in right across, right nearby in Herstelling and Farm. There were two lands that reserve lands that we demarcated and we divided up to make lots available. There were 34 occupants along that stretch, 34, 35. One has since been, one of the 35, and that's why it reduced to 34, would have accepted an allocation. And so we engaged them and we indicated a number of things. So, for example, we said there were 20 lots that were identified in Herstelling, and there were 14 that is being identified in Farm.
According to Minister Crowell, the arrangements and the commitment that the ministry made was that there would be a valuation exercise done of the existing structures. This was completed and persons were invited to the Ministry of Housing and Water and updated on the valuation process and offered compensation to the amount determined by the valuation process. The minister noted that the ministry even went a step further to facilitate the process.
Also, the land that was identified for relocation, to provide the land to them free of cost. So, for example, the Herstelling land, the value, if one was to allocate as per normal, it's about $1.2 million for the value of those lands. The farmland back then would have been in the vicinity of $500,000, right nearby, but there were different periods. Free of cost. We also offered assistance to relocate. We also offered assistance for ensuring that the title is when they would have gotten, once they relocate and occupy this new area, they would have been provided immediately title for their land, because those were areas that were have existing occupancy. Right. The titles would have been processed free of charge by the state. All of this information was made available or made known.
In October of 2021, the Ministry of Housing and Water then facilitated persons to start the process of signing up. In December of the same year, they were also invited to the Ministry of Housing for the signing of the agreement as well as the commencement of the compensation process.
Back then, we had majority of the persons who accepted. And then, in addition, we've paid to date. We have paid to so there are so far about 7 that have not accepted. And so somewhere around 27 persons we have paid to the tune of $250 million compensation. And this does not include for the crops, because we also so far have compensated over $6 million for crops Because as part, you have the household, you have the house, and then you also have to deal with the crops that exist. Now, the crops was valued, the valuation exercise, that was done by NARI, and that is the recognized agency for dealing with such.
President Irfan Ali, in a live broadcast on social media, said he watched in dismay at the political opportunism, the lack of leadership, and irresponsibility exercised by some who refer to themselves as leaders in the political opposition. President Ali underscored that leaders should not be opportunistic in nature and try to divide citizens at every opportunity. These statements by the president were made on the heels of the opposition MPs politicizing a squatting issue in the Mocha-Caneview area.
This government is a caring and responsible government to all its citizens. We not only remove those 28 persons, we ensure that they were compensated and adequately housed. There are 7 individuals who remain non-compliant and continue to stall every single effort in building this road and continuing this development, making very unreasonable claims and refusing to vacate the land that they're illegally occupying. What has the ministry offered them today? The ministry has offered them to relocate incompleted homes on legal land, which they will have titles for, which will increase their net value, which they can take to the bank and have a loan, free of cost. The ministry has offered them, and that offer remains as I speak to you, to move into these communities, into homes, to have a better life.
The head of state reinforced that his government is seeking no political mileage from the matter and urged families involved not to allow themselves to be used as political pawns by a few who are just angry about the development that is taking place in Guyana.
Every reasonable person can understand that what the government has offered is above and beyond. When will some of these so-called leaders in our country understand what is required to take this country forward? And they're thinking about the value that will come to every house in Mocha now with this new highway. The net value of every home will increase. The net worth of every citizen will increase. You're building the entire infrastructure out in Mocha that they neglected. Passing a new 4-lane highway through there that they neglected. Increasing the value of lands in that area that they neglected. But in a politically opportunistic manner, they find an occasion to rise themselves in numbers as if they have any care and concern. A government that has care and concern is a government that did exactly what we did.
Walter Lawrence, Carol Joseph, and Dr. Karen Cummings, all key opposition figures implicated in the effort to rig the March 2nd, 2020 general and regional elections, invoked their rights to remain silent during the ongoing elections inquiry.
Chairman of the Commission, Mr. Stanley John J.A., retired. I, Walter Ann Lawrence, wish to reserve my right to remain silent.
Joseph and Dr. Cummings expressed similar sentiments. Nigel Hughes, attorney at law who is representing Lawrence and Joseph on criminal charges for electoral fraud, explained that the women have the right not to implicate themselves at the inquiry, given that they are facing those charges. Lawrence, Joseph, and returning officer for District 4 Claremont Mingo are accused of inflating the results of Region 4, Guyana's largest voting district, to give their Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change coalition a majority win at the March 2nd, 2020 polls, when in fact the PPPC had won by more than 15,000 more votes. Based on prior testimony at the COI, Lawrence has been accused of being behind the declaration of false results at the Ashman's building in Georgetown. This building was the 2020 elections headquarters. Joseph has been accused of abusing using observers and party agents, while Cummins, who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time, is accused of threatening international and local observers. Also appearing before the commission was former Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowingfield and District 4 Returning Officer Claremont Mingo. Both men were summoned by the commission because they were accused of electoral fraud by other officials who already testified at the ongoing COI. They are also facing criminal charges for electoral fraud. Because they too are currently before the courts, the attorney, who is also Nigel Hughes, reminded the commission that they have a right not to potentially implicate themselves at the inquiry, given they are facing those charges. Also appearing before the commission on Friday was former Deputy Regional Commander for Region 4, Philip Azor. Azor allegedly aided former Deputy Chief Elections Officer Roxanne Myers in her effort to clear Ashman's Building, the election headquarters for District 4, and leave the statements of poll unattended during a bid to declare false results for District 4. He was implicated by Edgar Thomas, who during the election was the regional commander. Azor also was placed in charge of operations at Ashman's Building during an attempt to allegedly usurp the authority of Thomas when he refused to carry out Myers' orders. He, however, invoked his right to remain silent as well. And that's the bottom line.